Hey everyone. So we're going to kick off the podcast right now on a different tone than we normally do, because there is something that has been weighing very heavily on our hearts and our minds, and it really doesn't feel right to kind of go about business as usual without having addressed what's been going on in the NWSL. And we're talking about the horrible cases of sexual and mental abuse that's been happening in that league that was brought to light a couple weeks ago in an article in The Athletic written by Meg Linehan and Katie Strang, who I just want to say took such care and mindfulness in telling these stories and putting this out there and giving these athletes a voice. As women in sports, as women in soccer, this is extremely personal, okay? And it's important for us, I think, to use this platform that we've been given to speak on it. So I just want to say, first of all, unequivocally, we stand by these women. We stand by these athletes. We believe them. Sexual abuse, sexual misconduct, mental abuse, it's never okay, especially at a workplace, to feel unsafe where you are going to work. It makes me sick to my stomach, the abuse that these players like Mana Shim and Sinead Farrelly came forward with, and countless others, I'm sure. It's unconscionable. It's unconscionable. And I have been so humbled and brought to my knees by the courage that it took for them to actually come forward with the stories, because it made me think about all the others who were probably terrified, who probably didn't feel like they could do that there wasn't a system in place where they could tell their stories and share what has been going on in a safe way. And it's just disgusting. It makes me, it absolutely breaks my heart. It is so horrendous that type of abuse happened, but it's even more horrendous that it was allowed to continue. The culture of silence needs to go away. It needs to stop right now. And again, I just want to applaud the strength and courage of these players that came forward, and just want everyone to know that it's never okay. We believe them. We stand with them. And this is something that we will be talking about. We need to talk about, because it hasn't been talked about enough.
Well said, my friend. Well said. And to echo your sentiments, Suze, I think in every pivotal moment, there's a Mana and a Sinead. For every young person who will also, like so many of us, be hungry for opportunities, they'll look to Mana and Sinead. I know I will. That's the first issue, right? Someone who wants to be and is hungry for an opportunity. And then second, it's the idea or the stigma of, well, that people are going to say, what did you do to bring it on, right? That needs to also go away. And third, it's the idea that you're going to then be ostracized from the career or the job or the sport that you love and that you've poured maybe your whole childhood, your whole life, or your whole year into it. It doesn't matter. And we know that in many businesses and in many facets that does happen. I know it's hard for a lot of people, like you said, that wanted to say something, right? These are two retired athletes. So it obviously was not okay for them to say it in the moment. They had to wait. And that's what needs to change across the board. Like I said, it's hard for people who don't want to say something, and I respect that. They can't, or they're just scared. And I think that we see them too, right? We're giving so much credit, as we should be, to these two women, but we see those people too. There's also this whole conversation around secrecy. I know it's been triggering for a lot of people, and we see them too. Mana and Sinead's abuse is some of the most deplorable abuse out there. And this abuse exists in other ways, whether it's a side comment, like you mentioned, never okay in general, or especially in the workplace. DMs, emails, small jokes. People stay up at night replaying in their head, was I firm enough? Did I play along enough? is this going to end my career? Is he now not going to give me an opportunity? I'm using a lot of he's and she's, but this is something that exists across the board in all types of gender. When you have a person in power and someone who wants an opportunity. Mm-hmm. So if I'm using he and she, I just want to say I know that this isn't just a he and she problem.
Absolutely.
Like you said, a system of silence allowed this, and that's why it's been so heavy on our hearts to not be silent. So I want to challenge myself and others out there. If someone in a position of power makes an inappropriate comment, say something in the moment right there. Not afterwards. It's great. It's great to be an ally 5 minutes later or 10 minutes off to the side, but do it. Another challenge is let's keep talking. It's been nice, and it's been beautiful to see the messages of support from the NWSL players, standing by their teammates, MLS players. It's made me really proud and given me hope, but I think we can all do more. The bar is very low for leagues to get things right at times. So I say, let's challenge ourselves to that, even if we might take some punches along the way, to do the right thing in the moment. And I think the payoffs will be massive. And lastly, there's been so much progress in the last year or so in the messaging and the advertising, who we're seeing in commercials. It's been great. But I think we need to turn that woke marketing into woke policies and into how we function every day. And I think that's what will pay dividends.
Absolutely. And just keeping in mind as well, the lasting effects of the type of abuse that we are now privy to that has been going on. This isn't just, as you mentioned, these are retired players. And this is the rest of their lives that they now have to facing just the repercussions from that type of abuse. This affects their entire life. And that is why it's so imperative that we talk about this and we continue, as you say, to try to get better, to keep this at the forefront of the conversation, because this can ruin people's lives and it's not fair. It's just simply not fair.
And to that point, Suze, Mana said that Paul Riley took away their careers. Yep. And that made me sad. But then what gave me hope, too, is when Sinead said that coming out with all of this, quote, had given her pain a purpose.
Yes, pain and purpose. And that is just the entire embodiment of courage and bravery. So we stand with you. Thank you for listening. This is really, really important stuff. And I'm so thankful to have an incredible colleague and friend like Jillian, who we share this consciousness and we share this fight. And thanks to everyone for listening.
Welcome into our AT&T 5G virtual studios. This is The Call Up. I am Jillian Zakovitz. That is my best friend in the whole world and the most amazing gal, Susanna Collins.
Aww. Love it. Love the
I just
good
love
vibes.
you. I love you so much. Someone else I really love is our guest today, who had us laughing, and he's just full of zingers. I mean, we see them all the time in the post game, and we read about them by what he calls the experts. But we had a lot of laughs with the Gaffer at Minnesota United, Adrian Heath, who's been there since their inaugural season back in 2017. He talked about where he always got that, quote, underdog mentality. Goes all the way back to being a wee lad. Shares an incredible story from Stoke City. And P.S. note, they are no longer the underdogs, so don't call Minnesota United that. Talk about the culture, the soccer culture in Austin, which is where where he originally came from when he moved from England over to the U.S. Talked about Orlando, talked about Minnesota. It's really a super inclusive interview with lots of giggles. And we even talk about his, what's the word? I don't know, shade that he likes to throw at us, Suze. But we like to leave ourselves out of it. We said extra time. We didn't say us.
Yes, exactly. Well, there's a history. There's a history there. But you know what? One of the things I love about Adrian Heath is that he is so willing to be upfront and open and honest about all of that, his persona. And he is actually one of the coolest, nicest guys. And you understand, especially after this conversation, I think for me, I so understand why players like to play for this guy. This is a player's coach, and hopefully this interview and this chat with him will give everyone an appreciation for that. Time now for our AT&T 5G call to the field. We are so excited to bring in the only man to ever manage Minnesota United, affectionately known as the Gaffer, the one and only Adrian Heath. So great to have you on, Coach. Thanks so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure, ladies. How are we all today?
We're doing great. And right off the bat, just want to ask you how relieved you are that the request for this interview is coming from us and not extra time.
Well, they haven't got round to me on extra time yet. They'll probably wait for us to lose another 4 games on the trot and then decide that we'll go and have a chat with Inchy, see what he feels at the moment. But they don't do it when we go on a 12-game unbeaten run. They only do it when things are pretty bad. So it's a pleasure to be with you.
MLS All-Stars just announced that in 2022, it's going to be at Allianz Field in Minnesota. So we just kind of want to get your sense of what this is going to look like. And so who is a player that you would pick right now, today, that might surprise people? Who is somebody that you would put on your MLS All-Star roster if you had to choose right now?
Well, I don't think it'd be a surprise, but I think Reynoso should be in that conversation. I've played with a lot of really good players. I've worked with a lot of really good players, but this guy's as good as anybody I've played with and coached, and he'd certainly be in that company for sure. But I think the manager gets a few picks, doesn't he? So I might surprise 1 or 2 people on there when we get round to that. We've got some players I think are vastly underrated within the league, and it would be nice to put 1 or 2 of them with this exalted calibre of player, because I think that people would be surprised at the level of ability for people like Asani Dotson, etc.
Adrian, we've seen the gamut of MLS back in the day. They did East versus West. We saw the success this year going up against Liga MX. What do you think for MLS is the best all-star format?
Well, I think there's something glamorous when you see the likes of Bayern Munich come in and Real Madrid. And so I like that. I actually thought the All-Star game this year was really interesting because I think as the gap between Liga MX and MLS is closing, which it obviously is, and I think they feel a sense of that down there in Mexico. And I felt there was a little bit more to it this year than an exhibition game for a foreign team. I thought there was a little bit of an edge to the game. So maybe that was something that we could maybe revisit. But I'm sure that the commissioner, whichever way he goes, will come up with the right format. I'm just so pleased that we've got the game. It's an accumulation of a lot of hard work that's gone on by a lot of people. We've got, I think, the best stadium in the country. Our supporters second to none. We consistently sell out, great atmosphere, and I just think it's a little bit of reward for what an awful lot of people have put in over the last few years. So I know we're going to look after the All-Star game, and it will be an incredible success on and off the field for sure.
Yeah, we cannot wait. Allianz Field is so spectacular. I am so excited too, Adrian, that All-Star game happens to fall in the summer, because that is this is Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's a great place to be in those months.
Yeah, you had a couple of months to get it in to make sure that it's going to go ahead for sure. But
exactly.
No, I can assure you the weather's going to be fine, and the reception everybody will get who arrives in Minnesota, they want to put their best foot forward, and I'm sure it's going to be a huge success. I really am.
It's going to be awesome. We can't wait. I heard you refer to yourself earlier as Inchy, which is your nickname. And so for people that don't know, this is a nickname that was given to you years ago, kind of as a child. Can you kind of give us the context around Inchy? And it's clearly it's something that you've embraced.
Well, I was always the smallest kid. Believe it or not, I had a growth spurt at 14. Not too much of a growth spurt to end up at 5, 6 and a half, But I was always the smallest kid in the class, and I was always the one who was always felt as though I had a chip on my shoulder that I had to sort of, the bigger guys, and when we were trying to get in the teams, etc. So I've had it since the very, very beginning. I've had it since I was probably 6 years of age. But when I go home, very, very few people call me Adrian or coach or Gaffer. It's Inchy, and that goes for everybody. Even the directors at Everton Football Club, when I go back, they don't go, "Oh, he's Adrian, let me introduce you to somebody." It's like, he's Inchy. And so it's something I've always had. It's something I've embraced. I've never been sort of disappointed with it. And, I think it was one of them things that actually was good for me, because it kept reminding me about this size thing that's going to be important. But I managed to overcome that as we went on.
When you think about Adrian Heath in a post-game press conference or the way you manage your team, fans have loved that you kind of embrace that underdog mentality that has now just blown up. Is that kind of goes all the way back to that? Has that always just been a part of you, and you just happened to land Minnesota United?
Maybe. I'll tell you a story that when I grew up loving Stoke City. I went from the age of 4 with my grandparents and my dad. And got to the age of 12, and I was just starting to, so obviously I was just before I joined Stoke City actually. And one of the players for Stoke City was a centre forward called John Ritchie. Big centre forward, big target man, 6'3". And I'm standing behind him one day, and he doesn't know I'm there. And I heard him say to somebody, "Yeah, he's very good, but he's always going to be too small. He's never going to be big enough to be a professional footballer." So that stuck with me. And about 5 years later, I got the Young Player of the Year award for Stoke City, and he presented it. And the first thing I said to him was, "Not bad for somebody who's never going to be big enough, eh, John?" And he didn't have a clue what I was talking about, because obviously he didn't even know, but it stuck with me. And it's still to this day. So the motivation probably come from that. In terms of with the MLS, I can't be anything other than the underdog, because that's what we are every time. People put us into that bracket. Whether it be down in the bubble, we were always going to get beat in the bubble. Like we go in the Open Cup, we were always going to get knocked out to bigger teams. So I think the narrative is, when people say it's me creating that narrative, I think that comes, I just use what I'm given as ammunition to fire the guys up that nobody fancies us, we're the underdog again, let's go and prove people wrong. So if people go the other way at MLS.com, etc., or whatever, then maybe that'll change the narrative for me, and I won't be able to use that as much.
Well, I think we listen. I am always team Adrian Heath. I love Minnesota United. I'm always team Adrian Heath. I think one of what I found interesting was that, especially last season, I mean, you guys made it to the Western Conference Finals, and really could have gone on to MLS Cup, and like for me, I was like, I think they've shed this underdog persona, because look at how good this team is. Did you feel that sort of evolution last season?
I think so, and I think the expectations of everybody grew after that. After that run, I think everybody thought we'd get knocked out when we went to Kansas, and we managed to win that game 3-0, and we actually managed to throw the final away. We were 2-0 up with 12 minutes to go, and we sort of lost away a little bit. But no, I think that changed the perception of how the club and the team is looked at within, not just MLS, but I think further afield. And going into this season, that was something that I expressed to the players pre-season, that we are no longer the underdog. I expect us to go and compete wherever we go. And I've been a little bit disappointed the way it's gone this year. I think we've been too inconsistent. When we've been good, we've shown what we're capable of, but we haven't done that enough. And when we've been bad, we've been really poor at times. So, but we've still got ourselves in a position where we've still got an awful lot to play for.
Let's talk a little bit about your managerial career. After being an Everton legend, you moved your family from England to the U.S., coming to the U.S. 2008, coach at the USL 1 team in Austin, Texas, which then became Orlando. What was appealing to you, Adrian, about moving to the States?
A couple of things. I came here with Coventry City pre-season, and we played Portland Timbers, and I think there was 17,000 in. The atmosphere was incredible, and I just remember that day. I've always loved coming to the States, whether it be on holiday or traveling, and I just thought that where my career was at the time, I had the Coventry job virtually given to me and then taken away from me. And then the opportunity arose to come to Austin by the guy who run Austin was a director at Stoke City. And he said, I want to run the best minor league team in America. Why don't you come and run it for me? You can do whatever you want. Everything, football side is yours. I'll do the business side. But you've got a clean piece of paper, clean slate, just do what you want. And that appealed to me. And then soon we got in Austin, I could see the growth of the game. And I remember saying to Phil, I think we could even take this further. Mm-hmm. Austin's now obviously this hotbed of football, but we sensed it even then when we were there, which is like 10 years ago. I used to go and watch these international games and downtown, and there'd be thousands of people lining the streets watching the US play or watching the women's and World Cup team. And I just knew that was going to be a market. So their success and the way where they are, and ironically we're going there this weekend, so I'm really looking forward to it. I knew that Austin was going to be a great market. We ended up taking the team to Orlando, and I always use this story that we got interviewed the first day by Pat Smith, one of the big journalists down there, and at the end of the interview he said to me and Phil, well, good luck, but you've got no chance of succeeding in Orlando. I always remember that. So when we had 60,000 there on the opening day of the MLS season, I always said, Pat, not bad for something that's not going to work, eh? So, we had that was a special day for me, arriving in America and then taking a team and then taking it to Orlando and taking a lot of satisfaction to what that club's become, because it's a great market for sure.
It's incredible. It's really remarkable and such a testament to the growth of soccer and MLS. Since you have had a first row seat to the growth that this league has experienced, and I think you should take some credit because you have had your hands in Austin, you had your hands in Orlando. Yeah. You have been a part of a massive part of the growth of these teams, which is so cool to see. And I wonder
why I did it a couple of times, Susanna. Don't worry about that. A couple of times I thought, what have I done here? But no, as it's evolved, and I remember being in Austin, and playing in Xenia in Dayton, Ohio, with about 200 people, and a woman screaming at me from behind me who's a Liverpool fan, with a Liverpool shirt on, and I was wondering that day, what am I doing here? I thought, yeah. So 10 years later on, I can say that the journey's been well worth it, I must admit.
100% well worth it, because here you are as the head coach of Minnesota United. And it's interesting because your managerial career, like in 1996, you were a player manager, correct? At Burnley? At Burnley,
yeah.
Can you kind of talk to us a little bit about the role of a player manager? Because this is something that is so fascinating to me. How does it work
to Americans?
Yeah, I remember the owner of the club, the manager got fired, and I was at the hospital with my wife was having our second child, Harrison. And the phone went, and it was the owner of the club. He goes, have you seen the local newspaper? I went, no, why? He went, well, they've done a poll, and you've come top to be the manager, so you may as well take the job. And that was how it came about. I went, I'm not really ready for this, Frank. And he went, I think you'll be okay. I think you'll go into it okay. So sort of jumped in both feet, and very difficult job, because I went from being an integral part of the locker room, whereas, I can't stop talking and I'm full on in the locker room every day, to suddenly then I'm making the decisions and leaving some of my best friends out, which, trust me, is not an easy thing to do. Mm-hmm. And I think for anybody who ever thinks about it in the past, I'll give them one piece of advice. Either don't, or get a really good assistant who's been through it before, and you leave it to him and just carry on playing until you go behind closed doors and then go there. So it was a great experience for me.
I can't imagine.
It's you imagine going in with a guy every day in the car to train, and then one morning next day you were picking the team and leaving him out. It's like, it's not an
awkward.
Easy... No, awkward to say the least, yeah. But we managed to get through it, and I left there to go to Everton as the assistant, so it wasn't a great decision in hindsight, but I wouldn't change it for the world, no.
That's awesome.
You mentioned being maybe, Adrian, a little disappointed with where your team is at, but they are in 7th place right now in the standings. West has been a very difficult conference. We've seen the talent kind of and what certain teams have been able to do. How much, we've talked about this with Bashir with COVID, that there's just so few East versus West teams and the opportunity to pick up points.
Well, every game seems like a 6-pointer. This
and separate
morning,
yourself.
Yeah, yesterday
right.
we went through our fixtures, and I'm thinking, by the way, we've got tough fixtures. Then I went through Salt Lakes, then I went through Vancouver's, and we're playing each other virtually every other week. Vancouver have got to go to Portland, then Seattle have got to go to Portland, then Vancouver. So, hey, this is going to go completely to the last game of the season, for sure. Every game, we played the LA Galaxy a couple of weeks ago, and after the game, I thought Greg hit the nail on the head. He said, you can just sense that the games have become like playoff games already. Because there's so much at stake. Like, if we'd have won at the weekend, we'd have put 5 points between us and the 8th place. So it was a huge disappointment for us, and probably has given all them teams below the line a bit of hope and a bit of belief that they can go and win 2 or 3 games, and suddenly they're above the line. So, hey, it's going to go all the way to the wire, and obviously with the way that the structure of the league this year, we realised that with COVID stuff and the travel sort of situation, but I will be glad to get back to some normality next year, where you do have the odd game where it's not like, oh my God, you're going, it's like snakes and ladders, you're going up 3 or coming down 4 depending on your results every weekend.
Every time I look at the standings this year, I'm getting whiplash. It's like ding, 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 ding. Like, it's so hard to keep track, and as you said, it's probably going to go down to the wire. Decision day is going to be absolutely
well, we go to the
madness.
We go to the Galaxy on the last game. We've got LAFC to play at home. We've got to go to Vancouver. So, every one of them games is like a 6-pointer.
So how do you so what's the focus for you guys right now? Like, how is it going to be so that Minnesota United finds himself above the playoff line come decision day? What are you guys focusing on? What are you working on?
Well, we spoke this morning about leaving the disappointment of the weekend's game behind. We have to look forward. We don't forget what went wrong, and we've gone through 1 or 2 things, but every game is so important for us now. We can't think about what might have been. We can only affect what we're going to do in Austin this weekend. Hopefully the 4 internationals come back and they're fit and healthy for us, and Will be available. Wil Trapp's wife had a baby at the weekend, so he didn't play, and so it wasn't a great time to be playing a team that's above the playoff line, really comfortable with where they are and playing with so much confidence. But hey, we've got to look forward. We're looking forward to the next 6 games in the next 3 weeks, and hopefully at the end of it we'll be above the line. Because one thing I do know, and I'll say this to you now, is I know that if we get above that line, people will not want to play us on a one-off game, because the ability that we have in this group, that we are capable of going anywhere and winning a game.
Speaking of Wil Trapp, has he ever sang to you? Because he serenaded us, and he has a fantastic singing voice.
Well, it depends what you're comparing it to. I don't know who you're comparing Will to, but I'm sure there'd be 1 or 2 people at our club would think that Will would be maybe middle of the pack. So when he did his sort of initiation stuff, typical Will, people sing 2 verses. Will had the full song. He had an accompaniment, he had backing music, he had everything. The only thing he was missing was a few backing singers. But he was okay. He was okay. But that's the only way I've heard him sing. So he's not serenading me personally, no.
We had him on last year during the whole lockdown situation, and Will graced us with his vocal stylings, and it was a real treat, I have to say. It was like a ray of sunshine.
Maybe we were in a dark place. It was during quarantine, Suze.
Adrian, before we let you go, as we like to have some fun with our extra time counterparts, because we know that you've had some issues with some of the pundits and on MLSsoccer.com, which is totally fine. But we're gonna play a little game with you. where basically we just make you pick which one of the guys you would select for a particular situation. So we've got Matt Doyle, Andrew Wiebe, David Goss, Kalen Carr, and Charlie Davies. Okay. So you have to just pick one for each scenario. So
they're the experts, yeah?
They are the experts. They are the experts.
Yeah, I'm just getting that right in my head.
Us too, but we're the good experts.
Exactly. So first question, who would you pick to be on your pickup soccer team out of that lot?
Well, you'd have to say Kalen Carr, wouldn't you?
Kalen Carr.
Yeah, you'd have to.
All right, so Kalen is
I'm not sure the others have ever played, by the way.
Well, Charlie Davies.
Oh, Charlie, sorry, Charlie.
Yeah, we could pick Charlie or Kalen. They're,
Yeah, but I'd be up front, so Charlie wouldn't be playing. So Kalen would be behind me.
Fair.
All right, so Kalen is out. Who, though, then, from the last four, would you pick to invite to a barbecue at your house?
Oh, I'm not sure, Matt, because he'd probably eat too much. So I'm just thinking probably Charlie, because we could reminisce a little bit, Reminisce about good and bad, playing up front and playing in Europe and have a few drinks, no doubt.
Absolutely. Charlie likes his red wine too, so that would be super fun. Okay, so Adrian, you're being featured in a huge feature in Time magazine. Okay, who do you want to do the interview of those guys? You have Matt Doyle, Andrew Wiebe, and David Goss to choose from.
I would probably say Matt.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
All right.
I think he's got an idea, a little bit of an idea. So only a little bit of an idea, but no, fair. I think he's got enough tactical knowledge to, shall we say, to have a conversation about it. Yeah.
Which one would you let babysit your grandkids?
None of them. None of them, for sure. I would stay in, and I'm not going out that particular night. I will look after my grandkids for sure.
I love it. Okay, so worst case scenario, Adrian, you come down very sick before a game. You have to have somebody fill in for you as head coach, and your assistants aren't available. Which guy would you allow to coach your team?
Oh, out of that group?
Yes.
Oh, it'd have to be one of the players. Okay. For sure. Okay. It would have to be one of the players. So I'll probably go with Charlie. Yeah. No disrespect to the other guys, of course.
Of course. We know you appreciate them deep down, but they got to get the message. Like you said, we're no longer the underdogs. So you hear me? Pundits, experts, stop calling them the underdogs. Adrian Heath said it's over. It's 2021. Exactly. Wake up.
Yeah, but especially let's see how the season ends first.
All right. Well, we are rooting for you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, Coach.
Adrian,
anytime.
You're the best. We appreciate it.
Here for this. Are you here for Susanna Collins' shadiness on Twitter? From one MLS team to another. Are you here for kicking a dog when it's down? Well, over the weekend, when FC Cincinnati was officially eliminated from playoff contention, yep, that just happened, the Philadelphia Union tweeted out a photo of TQL Stadium with that big Halloween mega store sign on it, basically implying that they should just start selling Halloween gear because there's no use for TQL Stadium at this point in the year. They said FC Cincinnati eliminated from playoff contention, on to Plan B. I have a couple questions here. I've been seeing this spirit Halloween thing posted on a million pictures on the internet. I did not get it at all. I thought it was from a movie that I hadn't seen. Now I get it. I just needed someone to put it in MLS terms for me to understand. Thank you very much. I'm a loser. Susanna Collins, the question is, did the Philadelphia Union take it too far? And I also want to know, why is Philly going after Cincinnati?
I know.
Where did this come from?
This is my issue because in general, I applaud a little MLS on MLS Twitter crime. I'm here for it. I love the banter. The Philadelphia Union social media team always bring it, right? Like them in Dallas are just always so good.
The only thing they haven't bought yet is the Jim Curtin wearing our sweatshirt.
That's true. Just had to throw that in there. Typically, I'm all here for it. But in this particular occasion, you guys, Cincinnati, as you said it's kicking a little puppy when it's down, and it just doesn't. I felt a little bad for them because it's not been going well for Cincinnati since they came into the league. This could be the third year in a row that they finished dead last in the standings, and that's, like Philadelphia. Come on, like, well, it's just it feels a little.
I have news for you.
Aggressive.
Since he's not the puppy anymore.
This is a good one. This is an actual debate that I want to engage in with you, Jill, and our listeners and viewers here. Okay. So, are you here for, it's kind of like a two-parter. Are we here for celebrities jumping on sports bandwagons when it's convenient? And / like the second part of this is kind of like cheering for your city rather than like individual teams. So this is the situation. This is why I'm asking this. The White Sox, the Chicago White Sox MLB team, are in the playoffs, right? I am a Cubs fan. I am not paying attention to postseason baseball because my team is no longer in it. I am from Chicago, but I am Cubs through and through. I do not support the White Sox at all. I don't enjoy it when they win. So John Cusack, who is an actor of 80s movies, fame. He's been in a bunch of stuff, not a lot lately, but he is notoriously a Cubs fan. He was there in 2016 when they won, had the best seats, was on the field when they won. Like he's like diehard Cubs fan. So he was at the White Sox playoff game, aggressively cheering for the White Sox, and he got called out by White Sox Twitter. And then there was this whole exchange going on, and he himself then went on a Twitter rant about like, I'm celebrating my city. This guy is terrible. Why would you confront someone? And I'm sitting here going like, I'm with this guy. Like I would not. I don't cheer for the White Sox. I cheer for the Cubs. I love my city of Chicago, but that doesn't mean I love the White Sox. And so my question is like, where do you fall on this sort of debate? Because I think of it in like in MLS terms, right? If the Red Bulls are playing in MLS Cup, are NYCFC fans going to cheer for the Red Bulls? Like, I don't think so. I look at the Premier League, like Liverpool and Everton. No way. If Everton were in a Champions League final, like Liverpool fans would be like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. Like, true story, full stop.
So now that you painted in this light, I'm changing my tone a little bit, because when you first told me, I was like, yeah, I can relate. Like, when the Rangers didn't make the playoffs last year and the Islanders almost made it to a Stanley Cup, I caught myself sitting on the couch cheering for the Islanders because I love a lot of people who love the Islanders. But would I ever have attended a game wearing an Islanders hat? No! Like, I would have been called out by everyone in my family. That's just, that's wrong. I think John Cusack just wants to get on the big screen, and I think that's very desperate. I thought he went to the game. Oh, no, you can't wear a hat. And, like, here's the other thing. Now, if I'm the Chicago Cubs, you are not coming to celebrate on the field if we win the World Series again. If in 100 years we win it again, you are not invited. No, that's a very different story. Support and fandom are two very different things. And let's give a little love, Seuss, to Rodrigo Sanchez Chavarria. He tweeted at us that his kids play for Como Girls FC, and they got to live out their dream by playing at Allianz Field this weekend. So we love to see some of the youth in those MLS stadiums.
Yeah, love it. And also,
they won.
Like, thanks for tagging us in that. That's very cool. We'd like to share
we love an update.
and happy news and good vibes. All right. Should we get into what's on tap, Jill?
Earlier today, Major League Soccer's annual 22 Under 22 presented by Body Armor was released. And unsurprisingly, Susanna Collins, a call-up alum, Ricardo Pepi, took the top spot. And who else made this year's list? Well, head on over to MLSsoccer.com to see that full list. And check out Andrew Wiebe and Matt Doyle digging into the full list on MLS YouTube and MLSsoccer.com.
Oh, we got to vote on that, and that there was like a stacked list this year. So yeah, very intrigued to see who ended up
youngsters making it tough.
I know, we love that. Also, what's on tap? Okay, let's talk about the U.S. men's national team. It was a lackluster performance on Sunday. against Panama. Yeah, they're currently in second in CONCACAF World Cup qualifying, but they get right back in it tomorrow night, Wednesday, taking on Costa Rica, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2, Unimas Tudiene, and ESPN Plus. Also, Canada take on Panama at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, so you can watch that game on Paramount Plus. This is, I'm going to say it, it's a must-win. Boom.
100%. And credit to Panama. I loved what I saw. I loved watching those fans. I hate to say it, but I loved what I saw from Panama. And also, like, I'd love to see what Canada now does to Panama, because to me, that's another kind of test of like, all right, you saw what they could do. If you don't respect them, well, what's Panama?
And Canada coming off a 0-0 draw to Jamaica, which was not a good result for Canada. So this is, again, they've got something to prove.
Come on, US,
Spicy.
You can turn it around. I know you can. As a reminder, Extra Time will break down all of that action that Susanna Collins talked about. You can join the ETR crew on Twitter Spaces as soon as the U.S. men's national team lineup is announced. And be sure to tune into Extra Time Club and Country, driven by Continental Tire, after the final whistle of Canada taking on Panama, for all the hot takes and reactions.
Love it. Lots and lots of soccer to look forward to this week. And that's it for us. Thanks, guys, for listening, for watching. We appreciate you. I appreciate you, Jillian Sakovitz. What's up, everybody? It is Susanna Collins and Jillian Sakovitz, co-hosts of The Call Up. And if you want more Call Up action, hit like and subscribe right here on YouTube, right there.
And also make sure that you download every episode of The Call Up every single Tuesday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. And while you're here, why not check out some of these other videos as well?